With the bright morning sun streaming through my workshop window, today I want to make a steelworker's version of a marking gauge like this one, and I am going to use materials that I can find in my shop, offcuts and scrap pieces, and I also am going to use only basic tools. Coming up, marking gauges are especially useful for scribing a line parallel to an edge like I'm doing here, and of course you can set that distance to what you require and then scribe your line. So in some instances you would want your parallel line on all the edges of your board, and then of course it's a simple matter to keep that setting and make your lines on all sides. So there are many instances where I want to do the same thing to a piece of sheet metal, like that. But the problem is that this poor old wooden face here gets damaged by that sharp edge of the steel, so it's really not good for my tool. And that's one of the big reasons why I would like to make one of these out of steel. So I've scratched around in the shop, and this is what I'm going to use. I've got a piece of 12mm round bar here. That would be 1/2 inch. 10mm or 3/8 would work just as well. I've got a piece of 50x6 flat bar here, 2 inches by 1/4 inch, just an offcut. I've got 2 M12 nuts here. That would be 1/2 inch nuts. I wish I had an extension nut like this one, but this is an M10 or 3/8, so it's not going to work for me. So these 2 nuts are going to have to do. I've also got a little M6 bolt, 1/4 inch bolt, and a M5 cap screw. What is M5 in inches? One size smaller than 1/4 inch. And in this here, it's going to be the magic part. I'll talk about that a little bit later. If you've got a lathe, you can turn up something really nice out of a piece of solid stock like this. I mean, heck, you could even use brass if you want to show off. But we're not going to do that in this round, because I'm going to assume, and it's probably true anyway, that not everybody's got a lathe. So let's do it the basic and simple way. So first thing, I'm going to make a disc out of this piece of flat bar. So I'm just going to mark a circle on it quickly. Give it a bit of a punch right there. And then using my dividers, I'll just scribe a circle. If you've got a 2-inch hole saw, then you could cut it out with a hole saw as well. So before I cut out the circle, I'm just going to drill my hole first. It's just much easier to grip the material at this stage. Now I'm going to drill a 12mm hole to suit my piece of round bar. Obviously if your round bar is 10mm or 3/8, you need to drill the appropriate size hole. Let's just clean up the hole a little bit with this countersink bit. Yeah, it will be better if I turn my bit a little bit slower, so I've changed the drill to the slower setting. That's better. Let's cut out the disc. hot. Right, time for the poor man's lathe. I've got an M12 bolt and nut, chucked it into the drill press, and I can now already hear some keyboard warriors screaming about the lateral forces on the drill press and that it was never designed to do this. Yeah, I know all of that. But this is the real world, man, and we get things done here. So it's a little bit wobbly, but it really doesn't matter. I think it's good enough. So my disc should be able to fit and slide onto my shaft now. And yes, it does. We're on the right track. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drill out these nuts so that they can also slide onto the shaft. So my nuts now should be able to slide on here. There we go. So the plan now is to weld everything together. So this thing will look great if we can TIG weld it together, but we did say that we are going to keep it basic. So we are rather going to use the SMMA process. That's a fancy term for stick welding, and it stands for shielded manual metal arc welding. So next time you can go and impress your buddies and you can say, hey man, I concluded the job with the SMMA process. So I hauled out my old stick welder. I haven't used it in years. I don't even know if I can still drive it. So let's see if I stuff it up and let's give it a shot. All this slag and spatter, it makes you appreciate MIG welding, eh? Well, considering I haven't done it in about 43 moons, it's not too bad. So luckily we've got a grinder, and luckily we are pretty damn good with it. So I'm just spending a little bit of time here to make it look a little prettier. I mean, it does nothing for functionality, but you know, pride in your work and the feeling you get when you use a nice tool and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I guess you can say, please excuse the blood blister on my thumb. I can't swing a hammer properly. What was I going to say? Oh right. So we can say, with a grinder and a file, we can get a smile, but we just need to go the extra mile. So the welding caused it to bind up a little, so I'm just running my drill through here again, just to ease it up a little bit, or ease it out a little bit. There we go. So back onto my mandrel, which is just a M12 bolt and nut. I'm gonna chuck it in my drill press again. And now spend some more time with the file and a bit of sandpaper to make it prettier. So you can do this too if you want, chuck it into your drill. So I want to tap here for my M6 bolt. So in my case, the drill size is 5 millimeters. Obviously, if you use another bolt size, your hole size will be another size. Okay, tap M6. Let's see. Okay, well that works, but I think we need something nicer here. This is a little too crude for me. It works, but I want a nicer little knob or something. What shall we do? Okay, let's see. Lock, unlock. Perfect. Simple but effective. So we're almost done. The last thing we need to do is get this pin that needs to go there, and I've seen guys use broken drill bits or even bolts, and they don't really work because the material is too soft. This is where we are going to get very clever. So we are going to be using this material so we can make a proper scratch. These are the knives from a thickness planer. If you're a woodworker, you will know what I'm talking about. So I'm talking about machines like this portable planer that the woodworking guys use, or the bigger ones like this jointer. So these machines, typically they have 3 high-speed steel knives that is mounted in this rotating part that does the cutting of the wood. So as the blades get blunt, the machine obviously don't work so well anymore. So they take the blades out and resharpen them. And over time they wear out so much that they can't be reused anymore and they get thrown out. And that's where we come into the picture. So check with your woodworking buddies or even a woodworking shop, and I'm sure if you ask them nice enough, they will give you some of those old worn out blades for free. So these knives are made from high-speed steel, And that means, amongst many other things, that it's a very hard material. And that's what we want. So I'm going to make the scribing part of my tool from this high-speed steel blade. So another interesting property of high-speed steel is you can heat it up until it gets blue and it still retains its hardness. So we don't have to worry about that. Now I got to look for it on the floor somewhere. So I'm going to cut a slot into the end of my bar as careful as I can. If it's a little skew, it doesn't really matter. Not sure if the slot is wide enough. Little scribey thingy to slide in there. Yes, perfect. There we go. I think maybe I should just add that if you cut a thin slot like this with a cutting disc, you need to be very steady, because if you twist your grinder, you will break the blade and maybe some other things as well. So just be very steady and careful. So my scribing tip can now slide in there, like that. And now we just have to drill and tap to hold it in place. Okay, so now I can put in my little grub screw, and then I must slip in my tip. Excuse my dirty, thick fingers. There we go. You can tighten that down nice and tight. Okay, so last thing to do then is to slip over my guide. That slides nicely up and down. We can set it where we want. So now we can go and test it and see if it works. Time for a test drive. Let's see. I don't know if you can see the scribe line. I can see it very well. It's working great. Let's try another one here with the camera a bit closer, so that you can then hopefully see my scribe line. Or we can color it in a little bit. That will make it visible. You just set this fellow so that it will scribe there in the black part. It should be there somewhere. Well, there you go, man. I've got a new tool I can add to my collection. It didn't cost me anything except a little bit of my time. And this old fellow here, I can now retire him to the woodworking section where he belongs. Thanks for hanging here in the shop with me. I enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, Have a lekker one. There's my thumb.